People using this pandemic to do some upgrades on their home, but our next guest explains it's important to do your research to avoid getting ripped off. And joining us today is Lady Goldwire from BrinMar Construction. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Talk to us about, what are some of the things that we should all look for when hiring a contractor?
Well, first and foremost, it's always important to check the registry. Florida does a good job of listing all of the contractors in a database. Typically, contractors should be required to list their license numbers, so you can cross-reference those license numbers to look for complaints. That's where you start first. Check Better Business Bureau ratings, and also ask your contractors for references. That's always a great place to start.
I know you talked about references here, about asking those questions, but what other questions should we ask the contractor before moving forward?
You should definitely be concerned with whether or not your contractor is fine with pulling permits. That should always be something that you and the contractor are okay with. You should be concerned about the deposit amounts requested up front. Contractors should be requesting no more than 10 to 20% down based on the total valuation of the job to get you started. Be a little leery about contractors asking for 50% up front. You never want to have more money paid than the percentage of the work completed at the site.
I know a lot of us want to avoid this, but if you do get ripped off or something happens in a project, what are some of our options here?
Well, the Department of Business and Professional Regulations, they have a recovery board where you can collect from the recovery board in the event that you do run into some issues. It's always best to try to resolve your issues with the contractor prior to getting to that point. But in the event that you cannot, you definitely have that as a point of recourse. Make sure that your contractors are giving you contracts and make sure that the terms are spelled out completely.
Is this something that we are seeing? Are these scams on the rise here? Is this something that we should definitely be aware and cautious?
I think at one point there was a great bit of concern, but what's happening is the department has been working so very closely with consumers as of late to ensure that they minimize any damage done to the consumer, that the consumers and customers can be pretty comfortable with the fact that ultimately contractors, the good contractors, are very, very well of consequences if they're not going to adhere to the terms laid out in their agreements. I think you can always go and ask for assistance from any friends who've had similar work done, and also any attorneys that you may be or have a relationship with to help you get through your contract and your terms. But ultimately, contractors and consumers should feel very safe about being able to engage in the rise as it relates to all of the work that we're seeing done now under the guise of this pandemic.
Well, Lady Goldwire from BrinMar Construction joining us today to talk about these tips. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.